Heyo, I'm Ori, and today I want to talk about music, and more specifically, video game music. Now, I don't know about you, but I often listen to video game music more than music you hear on the radio. There's something very relaxing and inspiring about video game music that hits me in a different way. And if you click this video, I assume you want to recreate that feeling in your own art. So today, I'm going to go over my personal process for making video game music in hopes that you can make some sick jams. Just to set the stage, I am not a professional composer. I'm just a lad making music and trying one step at a time. So if my explanations don't make sense from a professional standpoint, I do apologize. I will, however, try to explain how I go from absolutely nothing to a fully fledged song, as well as identify my own shortcomings in my own music to show that we are all learning. This video also will not be going over scoring your projects, as that entails a different set of challenges. With all of that out the way, let's jump right into it. Now, before even thinking about making anything, you want to establish the tone of the piece. What exactly is the music being used for, and how does it affect the story? Consistency is also important. Is your game lighthearted, bubbly, a little side scroller? Then maybe try and avoid using heavy metal and screamo. Now, I'm not saying every song should sound the same, but every song should sound like it can exist in your universe and not distract the player. Tone aside, you won't be able to make anything without a DAW. I talked about some great free DAWs in my last video, but for this one I'll be using FL Studio, as it's the DAW I'm most comfortable with. The knowledge in this video should apply with most DAWs, so you can still follow along at home. To keep things simple, I'm going to be working on a simple boss theme for a game I'm working on. I've decided to use a character called Lucky, who's a magician. When making a theme central to a character, it's good to get a list of their traits. Lucky here is a magician, but he's also a boss you have to fight. He's also very polite and will bow to you before a battle. This simply helps me find how music should feel, and this is only part of the process for me. Including the character's look into the music helps me set the stage, but since Lucky is more of a caricature, I want to let the song find him. Now, I know you're thinking, but Ori, I can't play an instrument. I don't have any arms. But don't worry, you don't really have to know how to play an instrument. Now, before the professional composers find my location and send the nuke my way, I want to clarify that knowing even basic music theory and just understanding how the instrument works will help you tremendously. I personally understand the basics, like scales and whatnot, but I'm in no way a piano player, nor do I understand music theory, at least not professionally. I do enjoy just messing around. Most of the music I make is based on feeling, and half the time I'm just smashing keys together to see what sounds good, but I'll link some videos that help me put feeling and professionalism together. Welcome to your DAW. Look at all this crazy stuff you can do in here. Look at this. You could like make a little thing of piano and you can just, get you go like. Now, before we start, I want to explain that when I make music, I like to use sound fonts because I like to emulate the sound of games I love. FL Studio makes using sound fonts very easy, so you can import any old sound font you want and start making music with it. I'm not trying to clutter this video with the intricacies of FL Studio. There's some links in the description that'll help you just get a basic understanding if you've never used FL Studio, but I'll try and keep everything very simple and easy to digest. Now, here's the part most people dread, coming up with a melody. Don't be scared though, because no one knows where to start. I like to personally start by importing FL's built-in piano and just messing around with the keyboard until something clicks. Hit notes, play chords, but just mess around and have fun. That's what's most important. Just so you know, you don't have to start with the melody. There's been times where I've started with the percussion and that helped me find the songs feeling better. It really just depends on how you're feeling. When I'm really struggling to find a melody, I'll usually hum to myself or air drum. Some of the best melodies I've actually come up with just comes while I'm humming on the train and I'll quietly pull out my phone and start recording myself. I might look a little insane, but you can't lose that melody, right? And just remember, don't be embarrassed to hum to yourself. It's completely normal and a lot of people do it. I know it can feel a bit embarrassing to try and sing out your tunes, but you'll get used to it. For this track in particular, here's the melody I was humming while I was enjoying some lunch. Bum 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 bum. Pretty simple, but it gives me something to work with. You can build off simple melodies by adding slight changes on the second run. I personally like making my main melody in piano first and then convert it and fix it in the final instrument later because piano lets me hear sour notes or imperfections. The vibe I have in my head is something samba-y or kind of bossa nova, because that's where my brain goes when I think of magicians for some reason. I also want some kind of magic sound, but for now, I'm just gonna focus on the chords. The goal is to make something that you can kind of move your hips to. Here's where music theory knowledge becomes handy, because it can help you keep the sound in order. What I do is start with the lowest note and build my way up to make the note sound whole before messing with it. It works for me, but it may not be your style, so again, understanding even basic chords will bring you far. After some messing around, we have this groovy kind of thing that makes you want to move your hips. I think right now, the A section works well, but I want to push the moving aspect of the song by having a faster melody on top of these chords. After messing around for a bit, I came up with this little melody that builds off the first one. It has a kind of ominous vibe, which is perfect for the idea of the song. Now that the A section has a nice sound, let's work on the B section. Since this will be the middle of the fight, I want this to be the moment you lock in. So we have to keep that same feeling as the A section, but there should be an air of intensity. I came up with this little chord progression that kind of moves back and forth to kind of increase the anxiety, like a ticking clock. To keep the melody simple, I took one for this section and rearranged it and messed around until we had something that kind of ran with the chords. Overall, this part did a pretty good job of achieving the locked in feeling I was looking for, but it is important to release that tension. So let's work on the C section. Now, before I start, I want to clarify I normally do the A and B sections and then I start figuring out the instruments. But since the song didn't go too crazy, I thought I might as well just kill it all out the way now. For the C section, I want there to be a feeling of hope. I usually do that with melodies or boss themes with chords rising up because I kind of want it to feel like the player is overcoming a battle. I made a rising melody with bass notes and it sounds like this. I think I messed around with the chords to get something that sounds more hopeful. After messing around some more, I kind of have this nice progression. It's important to make sure your progressions lead into each other in a convincing way, so always go back and double check your songs. Now, here's where things get really fun. Now we get to take that rough closed grand piano sound and use it as a different instrument. I'm trying to get a retro NES kind of SNES vibe with the instruments, so I'll be using the Cave Story sound font. I was mainly using this sound font for other tracks related to the game, so keeping consistency is important. Right now, everything is sounding pretty good, but now the song sounds kind of flat. So that means it's percussion time. Now, I used to be terrible with drums. So here's a tip if you struggle with drums. I would suggest using or listening to a loop and chopping up the drums to how you'd like them. Then you can remake them with your chiptune drums or any drum of your choice. The biggest thing is that drums should help carry the melody, but not overpower it, at least in some cases. This pattern right here that I've made isn't very complex, but it sounds pretty nice, right? I also messed around with the Sega Sound font, but the drums in the Sega Sound font can be very powerful. So, use everything with a grain of salt. I also began to reinforce the chords with this sonic piano, but I kind of ended up cutting it later because it just was a bit too much. Now, every good song needs a bass line. I didn't want to have a bass line that overpowered everything, so I took the bass notes of my chords and just used them to make the bass line. And when I tried to get fancy with it, it just became a mess, so I stuck to very simple. After working on this song for a while, I kind of realized that the Cave Story sound font wasn't giving me the punch I was looking for, so I ended up just changing the instruments to the straight NES VST, and that's when things really started coming together. The lead also has a lot more flavor now, so overall I was very happy with it. Of course, every good song needs EQing. I know what you're thinking. Well, what does that actually mean? Well, in the simplest terms ever, it just means how you're going to adjust your instrument's sound and feel. You don't want every instrument to have this flat, monotone sound. You want it to have its own kind of flair. So, some reverb gives this some more depth, EQ to fix that crunchy feeling, and I'm going to add crush because I want to add my own level of crunchiness because I'm extra. Now, we've done all this work, but we still don't have that magic feeling I've been looking for. That's where my friend arpeggios come in. Now, here's something neat. Take the chords you've already been using and space them out to create this arpeggio. Congratulations, you now have a nice little melody. Use this sparingly. Of course, the instrument itself doesn't sound magical, so I kind of cheated and used the Kirby Superstar sound font and added some reverb, EQ, and delay to give it this really sparkly sound. This really sells the in section and gives it that heroic sound. I also added a simple rising bass to really get you pumped, and making sure this loop correct was also important, so I checked that out. Lastly, I added this choir sound to break away from the NES noises a bit to reel in the ending, and after about 4 to 5 hours of work, here's the final product. And that's really it. Obviously, there's more like mixing and making sure everything sounds clean before finalizing, but I plan on making a long form video that goes over different kinds of music theme, like towns, shops, ambience, and more, and it's gotta be long. So I hope this video was helpful to you in this moment. Really, when making songs, it's always just nice to have fun and try and get critique on what can be improved. I usually call my friends in Discord and just have them listen to it so I can get different opinions or ears on it, and it helps me improve some things. And hey, if you want to share some of your music, you can join my Discord below, and I'd be more than happy to give any of your songs a listen and give you some feedback or critique. And thank you so much for watching. I've been seeing a lot of new faces around the channel and on Discord, and it's really nice to see people share a similar interest. If you want to see more videos in the future, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll keep bringing the content. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.